Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. It's from a guy, he's 48 years old, and he's going to share his story about events that happened a few years ago with the woman who became his first wife, and now his ex-wife. And he's going to share the story how when he first met her, she pursued him. It was her idea about getting in a relationship, and eventually her idea to get married, etc., etc. And in the beginning, you're going to see that he thought he had a really good thing going. But then certain things changed in her life that led to definitely a major change in her behavior, etc., etc. And red flags are popping up. But you're going to see, guys, this guy is a pretty sharp guy. And you're going to see early on that he had the good sense to get a prenup. And if there was any cheating going on, no alimony he'd have to pay. And you're going to see also, guys, when he suspects cheating, he uses a very clever and common sense practical way to have proof, have evidence of her indiscretions. So it's a really good story here, guys. It's unfortunate what happens to him, but this guy ends it doing well. His life is going great. And so it's a story that all you guys, I think, will enjoy. And also for you guys that are married, relationships, to always pay attention to the red flags, amongst other things. So, starts off, he says, hello, SSM. I want to share my story with you and your community, and while there aren't a lot of theatrics or nuclear revenge, it might help some other guys out there when they're faced with a similar situation. I've been watching RP content for years now, and I think it's important for young men to arm themselves with knowledge if they're going to enter the war zone called marriage. That is very well put. First, a little about myself. I'm now 48 years old, and I own my own landscaping business. It provides a comfortable life for me. It's very fulfilling work. It was my father's business that I worked from at the time I graduated college in horticulture and took over when I was 30 years old. He decided that he wanted to spend more time fishing and retired early. Thanks to some good investment choices, he's living the life he wants, but often complains that he has more free time. He has more free time, and my mom keeps him busy with the honey-do list. He doesn't mind, and my parents have a great relationship. Even though he didn't ask for it, I still maintain him on the books as an employee and contribute to a 401k for him. The arrangement works well for both of us. That's cool. You inherited the business and you're doing well, and maybe you could definitely expand it into something even bigger and greater in his honor. I was 32 years old when I met my future wife, Kelly. She was 31 at the time and was working as a marketing manager for a regional chain of retail stores. It was pure happenstance that we met at all. I was at a local festival at the beach and listening to a band that was playing when some of my friends and I met her and her friends. We were all hanging out and having a good time for most of the day. By that evening, I found myself talking almost exclusively with Kelly. She was a lot of fun to hang out with, and we traded phone numbers. Over the next few months, we casually dated and were having a great time. It was Kelly's suggestion that we become exclusive around that time, and I liked her, so that's what we did. So far so good here in terms of the relationship fronts and the dating part. Casually dating, not rushing, and it was her idea to get into the relationship. When a guy brings up the idea of a relationship, it's a bad idea because she's not there yet. When the girl wants the dude, she brings it up. Just little tips here that can help you relationship guys out. So far so good, no problem at all yet. Over the next 2 years, we were having a great time together, and our goals were closely aligned. We had a few couples that we do things with, but always made time for each other. I was 34 years old when she brought up the idea of marriage. We've been together for 2 years, and there wasn't any red flags. She was fun to be with, and we complement each other's lives. I told her I need to think about it and went to my dad for his opinion. I trust him, and he's never given me bad advice. He liked Kelly, but like me, he's very regimented in his thinking. People that don't know him think that he's cold, but he's not. He's pragmatic. One of his best pieces of advice is that he gave me about relationships was this: love is nice, but life isn't a Disney movie. Exactly, bro. Exactly. After talking to him, he made me meet with his lawyer and have a prenuptial agreement drawn up to protect my business and other assets. Basically, I was along the lines of, if we divorce, we each keep what we came into the relationship with and split the joint property down the middle. Also, there's an infidelity clause which would negate spousal maintenance. There you go. Infidelity clause. Now remember, guys, it was her idea to get married. She brought up the idea. She didn't propose. That's not what it sounds like. I mean, that's what it sounds like, but she brought up the idea of marriage. So watch what happens when he says this to her and how she responds, etc. Like any contract, I was looking at marriage as a legal matter. The next time I talked with Kelly, I told her I would marry her, but only if she agreed to sign the prenuptial agreement. Good, bro. A lot of guys wouldn't have the balls to do that. They'd be too chicken shit that she'd leave them. At first, she was offended and asked if it was because I didn't trust her. The age-old line, "You don't trust me." Like, no, what I don't trust, I would say no. What I don't trust is the statistics. Or shall I say, I trust the statistics that show that overwhelmingly marriages end in divorce. That's why I'm doing this. I laughed and told her the truth. I loved her and trusted her, but when 60% of marriages end in divorce, I was going to protect the both of us. Well, there you go. I told her then that if she loved me and wasn't worried about divorce, then signing the agreement wouldn't matter since it would never be used. Long story short, she agreed and we got engaged and were married a year later after we moved in together the last 6 months. Smack. You knew her 2 years, then you got engaged, and then you married a year later. In my opinion, too soon. People will disagree with me. I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen in the comment section. You're entitled to your opinion, but my opinion, too soon. However, high five for the prenup. And by the way, notice how she was offended when he brought up the idea of the prenup. However, the ball's in his court. She's the one that wanted to get married, and if she didn't like that, okay, then we don't get married. So of course she went along with this. He had the leverage. He had the negotiating power. That's why where you are, guys, if you're relationship guys, that's why you want her to be the one to bring up the idea of getting exclusive after been dating a while. While you want her to bring up the idea of marriage if that's what you want to do. Okay, you see what I'm coming here at this? You have the power if you just hang back and give it time and let her do all the chasing and pursuing and all that. I can't make that any more clear. Again, this is for your relationship, guys. If you're gone your own way and you're not dating or anything like that, then no big deal. Lots of lessons to be learned from these stories. Anyhow, it says here, we got along great. Neither of us had any deal-breaking behaviors that irritated the other, and we made it to our wedding day. It was wonderful. I was 35 years old. Fast forward 5 years, they were mostly great. We had a good marriage up to that point. Well, so you thought. One has to mention that. My business was doing great, and Kelly had been working hard in her career. We had started talking about kids, but we still hadn't decided on doing that. But I knew she was getting on the outside edge of that being the option. It didn't really matter to me one way or the other, and she didn't want to give up on her career, so it was a discussion we decided to put on the back burner for just a while longer. She ended up getting a promotion as a regional manager that put her salary pretty close to mine. Uh-oh. A lot of times when women's salaries start lower than the guy, and then their pay gets like his, even, close to being even, or more, that's when some problems can arise, particularly if she's on the rise in her company. Everything was looking very good for our future together. We always maintained separate finances and had a joint account that we both contributed to for common expenses, food, mortgage, utilities, etc. Good. Smart, bro. It was a few months after her promotion that the first signs that something changed had started to show up. Imagine that, right after the promotion. It was a gradual change, so it wasn't alarming. But after a few months, our bedroom fund had started to dwindle, and she was spending a lot more time at work and getting home later. She also started having to travel due to her new position, and that took her out of town for a week each month. When she was home, she always seemed to be on her phone, and for the first time in her relationship, had a pass key on it. She's out more and more. You're not together as much. The phone all of a sudden has a password to it when it didn't before. These are little things you pay attention to. Now, these are red flags, and they start adding up, and there's something wrong. Like I said, it was gradual change, but when you spend so much time with someone, you get to know their behaviors and moods. You also know when they change. Over the course of 6 months, we had gone from having 3 to 4 times a week to once a month. Her excuses were always that she was tired and stressed from work. I didn't press the issue, but her behaviors were eerily similar to some of the stories you see on the internet about cheating stories, and I was starting to get curious. Believe me, they like the you-know-what just as much as guys do. And if they're not getting it before you're doing 3 to 4 times a week, and now it's like once a month, something's up, okay? Unless there's some medical issue that she's having or something like that, something's up. These are things to pay attention to, gentlemen. I didn't press the issue, but her behaviors, I read that part. He says, I had talked to my dad about my concerns, and he suggested talking to her about it. This was the first time I ignored his advice. I wouldn't have done that because you can tell something's going on at this point. It's obvious. If you would have talked to her about it when it was already going on, this is my opinion, of course, that could have alarmed her that you're onto her, and she would have covered her tracks and all that, and the bullshit would have kept going on. Because it's not like she's going to probably admit if she's hooking up with somebody else. It was on my 40th birthday that I knew there was a problem in our marriage. We've been together for 7 years, and Kelly always made a point to surprise me every year on my birthday with a nice dinner, and we would spend the evening together having fun. I still remember that night like it happened yesterday because that was the day that changed my life. I was sitting at the house watching TV and waiting for her to come home. I already had a movie picked out to watch. Little did I know the movie would be prophetic to our relationship. It was Titanic. Normally, she'd come home and we'd have a shower before we cooked dinner and spend the night together. Not exciting, but it was something we had done every year we were together, and it meant something to me. When she came home from work, I asked her how her day was, and she went on to tell me how busy she was, and she had to go back out for a meeting with the leadership team at her job. On your birthday, she knew darn well when your birthday was, but still she has to suddenly go out for an important meeting. Where do you think she was all day? At the carnival? She was at work. So why couldn't they accomplish that? And this is the girl who never missed a birthday, right? It wasn't uncommon, and I figured we would just take care of my birthday when she got home. She went to her room, showered, dressed, and left the house. Not one mention of my birthday. Why'd she have to come home, shower, and then go out again? Right? Now, I'm not a very emotional guy, but that one hurt. I ended up watching the movie by myself and waiting for her to get home. I don't know if I'd be watching Titanic by myself. I think I'd probably be watching Predator or something, but to each their own. It was after 10 o'clock when I gave up and went to bed since I had to work in the morning. It was a little past 11 when she got home, complaining about how she hated going to those meetings and all they do is talk and waste time. She showered again, which I thought was strange, then crawled into bed and went to sleep. No happy birthday for me. 2 showers. She came home, had to take a shower and go out. Came home again, took a shower, went back to bed. Was she jogging while they were doing this meeting? Were they meeting on treadmills? What's going on here? That's a lot of showering for these meetings with coworkers. Usually people shower to wash the SEX smell off them. Or the cologne of some other dude, or you get my point. The next day at work, I was in a pretty bad mood, but I couldn't get the second shower out of my head. It didn't make any sense, no matter how I tried to reason it away, I couldn't. It was halfway through the day that my logic took over. If all she did was go to a meeting, there was no need for her to take a shower before bed. On work days, she'd always shower in the morning, which she did the following morning. I had a pit in my stomach that was telling me there was a reason for that late night shower, and I didn't like what my gut was telling me. I know you didn't like what your gut was telling you, but I'm glad you're listening to it. With her change in behaviors and that, I suspected that she was cheating on me. I ended up stopping by my parents' house after work and talked to my dad about my concerns, and he came to the same conclusion that I was. We live in a no-fault state, so proof of adultery isn't a factor in divorce. But it was for our prenuptial agreement, and I had to know. Well, you're certainly happy that you listened to your old man and got a prenup, huh? On the way home, I had my first thought to confront her, but I dismissed that almost immediately. I didn't have any proof, and all she had to do was lie to me. Then I started thinking about some of the things that you read about people doing, like spyware or cameras or VARs. But I'm not a Sherlock Holmes. I'm damn good at landscaping, but not so much at being a detective. I settled on the idea of hiring a private investigator to follow her for a few weeks. If they didn't turn up anything, I would chalk it up to my own paranoia and talk to her about my concerns. She got home at her regular time, and I was doing my best to keep my insecurities to myself. I didn't want to believe that she'd be cheating on me, but better men than I have been cheated on. Until I had some concrete one way or another, I had to leave it on the table as a possibility. After she changed, she came out of the bedroom with a smile on her face and said, "Happy birthday." I told her my birthday was the previous day, and her face went a little pale, and she looked at her phone for a second before she started apologizing and saying that she had her days mixed up. She has them mixed up because her mind is on somebody else. After all those years of her never missing a birthday and everything there. Goes on, I guess as busy as she's been lately as was possible, so I told her not to worry about it. She promised to make it up to me, and we had dinner and spent the evening watching a movie. When it was bedtime, she said she was tired and promised to make it up to me soon. Translation, no sex. I think given the fact that what happened the night before, she should have been more than willing to get all kinds of freaky with this guy. Not that he would probably want it, suspecting what he suspects, but she had no interest in that. At this point, it had been a month and a half since the last time we had any fun together. I told her not to worry about it, and I fell asleep. The next day was busy. Between jobs, I was doing what research I could for local private investigators, and after finding a few to call, I set up an appointment for after work for one of them, and the appointment the following day for another just in case. Without getting too long-winded, I hired the first one, gave them Kelly's schedule, and a picture of her along with where she worked, the car she drives, and the license plate number on her car. This guy isn't messing around. I hired them to watch her for 2 weeks, but it didn't take that long. After 4 days, they had the proof that she was cheating on me. I'm sorry, man. We could all see it coming. There were pictures of her kissing some guy at a hotel and the two of them going into a room together. I had no idea who the guy was, but by the suit he was wearing, I assumed it was someone she worked with. It was more than what I needed for the terms of our prenup agreement. I was crushed, then I was furious, and then I was crushed again. No one can blame you, man. Notice again how he said in the beginning, the first few years everything was cool. Then she got the promotion at work, and then all of a sudden the change in behavior. Now she's making more money. Now she's dealing with different people, traveling all the time. My first instinct was to go home and toss her out of the house. Well, no one would blame you. I knew that that was my emotions talking, and other than some immediate satisfaction, it wasn't going to help me out. I drove over and talked to my dad and showed him what the PI had gathered. I need to pause the story really quick. First, if you suspect of your significant other cheating, hire a PI. They're damn good at what they do. Second, do not go off half-cocked and let your emotions rule your actions when it's a legal matter. Yes, you got to be calm and calculating and planning things out. I ended up eating dinner with my parents that night while we talked about my options. He asked if I was going to try and work things out with Kelly, but I laughed that away. Smack to your dad. No, you're not going to work things out. She's having a full-on affair. I have respect for your dad, bro. I hope you realize that, and that was kind of a joke, but seriously. Once a cheater, always a cheater, and after all this shit, she's toast. When the option was off the table, he gave me the advice that set my plans in motion. He said since she didn't know that I was aware, the ball and all the power was in my court. I could run out and file for divorce, but that would only cause me pain. Or I could get my ducks in a row, take my time, and leave on my terms. I told him how much of a failure I felt like, but he brought me back to reality. He said it has nothing to do with me. She chose to marry me. She's the one who made the wedding vows to me, and she's the one that broke them. If she had a problem with something I was doing, she could have talked to me like a caring partner would. This was all on her, and he was right. Strangely, it made me feel a lot better and cleared up my mind. It also made me realize a couple of things. Marriage doesn't have anything to do with love. Well, no shit. Marriage is a business deal, except it's a shitty business deal because the only ones that usually make out in the marriage business deal are the women. It says here, it's a legal contract between two people and the state, mostly for tax purposes. That contract has now broken. The second thing was remembering our vows that we made to each other on our wedding day. Do you promise to love her, comfort her, honor and keep her for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and health, and forsaking all others, be faithful only to her for as long as you both shall live? Yeah, a lot of the gals in these stories tend to forget that part of the whole wedding. They remember the part walking down the aisle and getting all the attention about them and their dress, but they don't exactly remember the vows too well. That was the vows and the promises we made to each other. She didn't keep her promise. The second I had confirmation that she broke her vows to me, we were no longer husband and wife. We were just two adults that were legally tied to each other. I was no longer under any legal, moral, or ethical obligation to keep the promise I made to her, since she already broke it. Other than the outstanding legal matter I had to take care of, I was a free man. Until the divorce was finalized, I didn't have a wife, I had a roommate. Well, that's pretty much most marriages after a number of years, dude. My exit strategy was based on a quote I read somewhere. Never catch yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. When I got home, she was wondering where I was, since it was after dinner time. I just told her I had some dinner with my parents and tried to keep my expressions as neutral as I could. She didn't seem to notice there was anything wrong and went back to watching the movie she had on. Let me tell you something. Women notice everything. So if she didn't notice anything, that tells me everything that I need to know here in this story. That she was so obviously wrapped up in herself, probably thinking about that other dude, probably texting with him. I don't know what. She even noticed that there was a change in this guy's behavior. Because even if this guy thought he was hiding it, trust me, women notice shit. Over the next 4 months, I had the divorce paperwork drawn up for uncontested divorce. Rented an apartment since we would be selling the house, and started to check out the marriage and living my own life. Checking out of the marriage and living my own life. She didn't seem to notice when I stopped hugging her or seeking her any affection. The couple of times she tried to get intimate, I used the same excuse she used on me. I was tired from work, but would make it up to her. I never did, and she didn't seem to mind. She didn't seem to mind because she was getting to someplace else. That's why. I'm sorry, bro. I know you know this dude, but I'm pointing out the obvious here. I started spending more time with my friends, and he went out on a few dates and had a good time. I know some people might say I was cheating, but I disagree. If we had intact vows, it would have been cheating. But I was under no obligation to Kelly since she was the one that broke our marriage. Other than the legal title, I wasn't married. Yeah, this is different. Ordinarily, trust me, I'm not big on cheating for both parts. But since she's the one that ruined it, and you were already planning the divorce and all that, then, the hell with her. However, if it was me personally, I would have waited till everything was gone, divorce was done, finalized, some healing, then maybe do that. But, hey, whatever. It was nearly 5 months after I had confirmation of her cheating, and I was almost entirely checked out and prepared to move on. I still had a few financial matters to take care of. When I finished, I was going to sit her down and give her the divorce paperwork, but she forced my hand a little early. I guess she noticed I'd basically been treating her like a roommate and not touching her. She brought up at dinner, and I almost choked on my drink at what she asked me. Now, listen to this, guys. She asked me, and I quote, "I know something's wrong. Do you not love me anymore?" Unbelievable. I'm not sure if it was that moment was finally there or the worried look on her face, but I couldn't help it. I started laughing. It wasn't just a chuckle. It was a full belly laugh that took me a few minutes to get under control. I probably looked like I'd gone insane. When I got myself under control, I told her the truth. And I said, "No, I haven't loved you for almost 5 months." I don't think she was prepared for that answer, and she asked me why not. I ignored her, went to the office and picked up the folder with our divorce paperwork and the pictures proving her cheating. And he says, "Don't worry, I had a backup copy of everything." I had that folder sitting on the desk for almost 4 months. I wasn't trying to hide it. All she had to do was open the folder and look at it, and she would have seen it. She never did. I returned to the table and handed the folder to her, and at first she was confused until she opened up and saw the first picture. Her face went from confusion to shock and then fear. That's when the tears and the apologies started. It's like these cheaters are all reading from the same script. It didn't mean anything. She loves me. She'll do anything to make it up to me, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, dude, it is like they have a handbook or some kind of script with all these responses every time. It's amazing with all these stories. It's the same thing. And, of course, the waterworks, because she's hoping that you'll see her cry, then you'll go easy on her and forgive her, and back to business as usual. I told her that she had 2 options. I'm liking this part. Sign the uncontested divorce, and we would split our joint property down the middle, and the cheating would remain a personal matter between us. Or fight me, and I will blow up her world and tell anyone that would listen what she's been doing. She was begging me to give her a second chance and suggested that we go to marriage counseling and she would give me access to all her accounts. Oh, for God's sake. Yeah, go to marriage counseling where they're going to try to keep you together even though she's been doing all this to you. And access to all her accounts, which she'll conveniently wipe clean all the evidence and proof before she actually gives you access to her accounts. Of course, she was blabbering how sorry she was and how she never meant to hurt me. I told her that the only options on the table were what I already said. Good for you, bro. She wanted to explain what happened, but I told her that I didn't care about it and that I think that frustrated her the most. I knew she was only trying to get rid of some of her own guilt, but she brought it on herself. I didn't need any closure. I had been checked out for months. What the hell was she going to explain? It's pretty obvious. In the end, we divorced uncontested. She bought my share of the house, and other than a little bit of waiting, the divorce was fairly painless for me. Good. You deserve a very smooth divorce, bro, after all this shit. So, I had a great marriage for 5 years, and I'll always remember that time in my life with fondness. Contrary to how these stories usually go, I don't hate Kelly. We had a good thing going until we didn't. She made her choices and I made mine. Very little has changed in my life other than being free to spend time with anyone I want. I don't think I'll bother getting married again. Honestly, I'm having too much fun being single. The last I heard about Kelly was that her affair partner's wife found out what they were doing and raised a bunch of hell at her job. I'm not sure if either of them was fired or got into trouble, but it's not my problem anymore. You're right. It's not your problem. And by the way, dude, I have a strong suspicion that one day she's going to try to reach out to you, probably trying to get a second chance. Probably as she gets older and the amount of suitors she has starts to dwindle, you may hear from her again. And don't do it. If I could change anything that I did, it would have been to speak up early when I noticed her behaviors changing. I might have been able to shake her out of the early fog, and we might have been able to work it out. But who knows? So that's it. Hopefully my story can help some other guys out there that are faced with a similar situation. Bro, that was quite a story, and I'm sorry it happened to you, but let me tell you, I handled it great with the prenup, knowing that you were in control. You know, she was the one pursuing you constantly throughout your relationship from the beginning, so you had the leverage and control that you could, hey, prenup. And of course, remember the whole she was offended thing, but went along with it. That really helped you big time. And then you did your best, but you found out. I'm glad you listened to your old man, got the PI and all that. It was brilliantly done. But in the end there, you mentioned something. You wish maybe you listened to your dad and talked to her early on. But I stand by what I say, that if you would have talked to her early on, the odds are she would have just simply denied it, of course, covered her tracks, probably gave you the royalty treatment for a while, and then go back to the same thing because obviously she had changed. Or that's who she was all along, and this just opened up. She felt comfortable enough that she could, who knows? It's in the past, can't change it, but the point is that I don't think that would have made a difference. I think you did the best thing by starting to find out proof on your side about things and then gathering evidence and all that. But anyhow, guys, great story. I'm glad you're doing well, bro. Again, guys, this shows a guy can go through a lot of shit, but he can start over and move on. And also, always get that prenup. Always. And make sure it's a prenup where she can't argue, or her lawyer can't argue, pressured into it, duress, whatever they want to try to argue. I think the thing is, both you have a prenup and there's witnesses and all that. Whatever it is, make sure you get it here, because otherwise, he could have been paying her a big alimony, or his business, part of his business could have been taken or something like that. And that was a business he inherited from his dad, and that's very important to him. So, guys, lots of lessons here in the story, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let this guy know what you think as well. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.